Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our quick webinar on Mastery Connect to Personalized Student Learning. I'm Ann Smalling.
Hi, I'm Edith Lewis at Spring Oaks Middle School.
Today we're going to kind of be talking about how we use Mastery Connect in our classroom to help us personalize student learning on the middle school level and on the elementary level. I'm at Memorial Drive Elementary and I teach 4th grade.
And like I said, I'm at Spring Oaks. I teach 8th grade and have been here for a while.
So originally when Mastery Connect came to us, we kind of moaned and groaned a little bit, honestly, because it was one more thing. And on an already overwhelmed plate, one more thing we thought was just going to kind of tip us over. But as we've moved through Mastery Connect and learned some tips and tricks, and I've especially learned a lot from Edith, we've kind of grown to really love it as part of our classroom experience.
It has a lot to offer as far as ways to keep monitoring what the kids are doing and checking short and quick things with them, but also it gives them quick feedback as well, and it's all very easy, and every time we use it we learn something new and go, oh wow, this is awesome. So then we add one more trick to it.
So today really is going to be about just running through all the tips and tricks and just kind of giving you more of an appreciation for what Mastery Connect has to offer.
So, one of the things to keep in mind is, our first goal was to set up our trackers, and that's the key part of it. There is the trackers set up, so you can set it up by class period, which is super easy because then you just go into your Skyward account, you pull your rosters, and it matches your Skyward, which we'll get to that later about why that's kind of cool. You could also do small group where you actually create rosters that are personalized within the classroom.
And what we learned later on is that there is an option that you have to separate by TEK and kind of group your trackers together.
Mm-hmm.
But what's important about that is you really need to set up, you need to get your TEKs all in one place by commonality before you set up your trackers, because if you try and do it after, then all of the data that you've collected prior to doing that goes away.
Yes, that's true. It does go away forever.
And so if you're like me and we've entered into this and we didn't set up all of the commonalities, for instance, all the TEKs that in 4th grade that go towards earth science versus life science, if we didn't put those into groups beforehand, then our trackers just by science in general would again go away. And so we're just kind of hanging on to the idea that at least we've got a tracker for science and all of our TEKs are in one place. So that becomes really important.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. So where to next? What do we show next? The setting up a tracker maybe, or reasons why we would use it, how you would use it in the classroom?
I think we should go to how you can use it in the classroom just to get some more buy-in.
Okay. One of the things I do frequently is I'll use my daily warm-up with this. And so if it's the lesson we're about to teach, it could be a pre-assess where we go through and we have 4 or 5 questions. I see immediately where they're at, they see where they're at, and then I can continue with the lesson. So that would be one way I use it in class. We basically use it for right now as a formative assessment at the end of, after we've met with our small groups, if our small groups were able to get the content that we've been working on or not. And if not, then we go back and we specifically, especially if you have multi-TEK assessments, then we go back and see what TEK didn't get mastered and what TEK did get mastered. Okay.
So we take it from a small group perspective to an even smaller group perspective. But you can also use them as exit tickets, which is fantastic as well.
Yeah, it is. It is. They go through, they answer their questions really quickly. Today our warm-up was sort of like a post-assessment, even though it was a warm-up to the lesson, but they had done the initial pre last week. We've spent a week on labs, a week on activities, and then came in today, did a very similar post, same type of questions, and then in their columns they could see side by side that they'd grown from 5% mastery to 9% mastery out of 10 or 12, whatever the total was. And so side by side they see on that same TEK their personal growth, which was really nice. That was fun for them.
And I think it really is important that you point out that you can see personal growth. So in this environment where our kids are encouraged to accept responsibility and show their accountability, it's a really great opportunity to be able to have goal setting options and then use Mastery Connect, which shows you almost instant feedback or instant gratification exactly what you did and didn't do. So for us, Mastery Connect is also a really great way to kind of pick up where our MAP test left off, because MAP is only three times a year, and so we can use Mastery Connect to assess our small groups that MAP told us to create in the first place. Mm-hmm. So they kind of go hand in hand, except we use Mastery Connect pretty much every week in both math and reading.
Good.
And in science.
Mm-hmm. Great.
All right, so I guess we can get started about how to create trackers in the first place.
Okay, creating a tracker. So are we able to show the video? The little short clip, or do we talk them through how to do that? Back here, let me go there. So here's our creating the trackers.
You can show the video, but you can also show live.
So how would we do that? What's the best way?
Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty because it says we need permission to view this video, even though we're the ones that created it.
Okay, then just go ahead and show them live.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and use...
You do that from that side. I'm logged in as me, so
yeah. So I'm just gonna, you want to scooch over and I'll come behind you?
I'm good right here.
Okay.
Okay, so here's your tracker option at the top. Of course, you've got assessments, pins. We'll get to these other key items here. So in your tracker column, shows you which ones are already created, and then you can go to the top right and you can do add a tracker here. And a couple of different ways, and you're going to interrupt me here when I need to, when it fits more to elementary versus us. So I would just scroll to my subject, and it defaults to the Texas TEKS here. My class defaults to 8th grade, and I could go by period 1, 2, 3. I could do my my range kids, where I've got my lower performers, higher performers, and create a list there. But I think I'll go ahead and do this, and I'm going to do a period 4. And then here's your options for where you can do individual additions. You can do from a CSV file, or you can import, which is the most ideal way to go. And then when I scroll here and it shows my period 4 and I create the tracker, it dumps all the kids in there. So that's the fastest way if you want to keep that whole period together.
So if you're specifically in Spring Branch, then you're going to want to upload your tracker or your students from SIS, because that's your Skyward. Those are that's your Skyward list.
Mm-hmm. And then the nice thing about the Skyward list is the grading issue. Probably don't need to say that yet, right?
Probably not yet, but
okay,
it's so exciting.
But we do want to remember to say that, because that's kind of cool. So there's our tracker. I just continue now. I can go back up here to trackers and then just keep adding as many as I need for each of my class periods. And then I'm done. Again, I could still add more too. I could do small group, big group within a class period, or keep it together as a class if it's a final assessment.
I do want to point out, though, that if you, for some reason, don't like your tracker, or it doesn't fit, or you want to start all over, you don't really have you don't have the ability to delete the tracker that you created. You would have to archive it instead. That's what we found anyway. I don't know if that's changed.
I don't think so. And actually, I'm wondering now out loud, when we archive, can we go back and make it live again?
I'm pretty sure you can pull it out of archive.
Okay.
See, these are the things that we sit around and talk about and constantly like, I wonder if you can do this. And the great thing about Mastery Connect, what we've seen so far, is that it's very forgiving. You can mess up as many times as you want, or create these dummy classes just to play around with it. And again, you can always archive and just make it go away.
Yeah. And a lot of mistakes will be made. I think I have like 6 versions of a test in there because I kept getting it wrong, but I can't make them go away. I'll figure that out later.
One of the things that I wanted to point out, again, are curriculum maps. And that's what I was talking about earlier. And it's easier just to kind of show you. You want to be able to create your trackers from your map. Because if for some reason you create your trackers first and then you create your map, that's what I was talking about earlier, where all of your data goes away. So because we learned about curriculum maps after we learned about trackers, we've kept our trackers the way they are, and we know that curriculum maps are in there, and we have the ability to go back in and sort our curriculum into, or by TEK, by subject. But for right now, we're just kind of hanging back on the tracker side and not doing that, because we realize now that, again, all of that data would disappear. So for those of you that haven't set up your trackers yet, set up your curriculum map first, and then create your tracker from the map. It'll just be a lot easier on you in the end.
Sure, and if we look here, let's see what that looks like. Create the tracker from the map, and then you just go through here, give it a class description. You still import the kids, you still do your drop down to which roster you want to pull into there, and then you've got your tracker associated with that map.
Could you show us how to make the map?
Not yet. We haven't showed. Do you want to go ahead and do the
You
curriculum?
do the curriculum map. I don't have curriculum maps. I think with 8th grade in my subject, it's all already in there. So I wouldn't really have any map.
Okay, so in order to do this, I actually have to log into my account.
Okay.
So, do you want me just to grab it from my computer? Okay, because chances are I can't even remember my login. Yay! So we're going to log in, sign in with Google.
You can.
I cannot do that?
You might be able to try it.
We're going to try, and if not, then this is just another one of those really great things about being live. You get to see us at our very best. And I have to really hope that my password is what I think it is. And lucky me, it was. Okay,
Oh, so cute.
thanks. Weiss actually created my logo for my classroom.
Oh.
So I appreciate that on many levels. All right, so when you go to curriculum maps, again, the really great thing about it that I like is that there are so many different facets to 4th grade science. And you know, unlike middle school, our 4th grade TEKs are set up into earth science TEKs and life science TEKs, and physical science and process standards. And so what we like to do is we like to sort our trackers into, or our TEKs into these separate categories. So, and the other cool thing about it is you get to show them, you get to give them all these nifty colors. So obviously with earth science, I went ahead and made it brown because we're talking about soils and slow changes to the earth's surface and things of that nature. We also have things like patterns on Earth, which includes seasons and tides, and that would go under earth science too. And so you would just drag and literally drop it in, and it becomes part of my earth science TEKs, which is super fantastic. Again, I can't tell you enough that if you've created trackers prior to doing your curriculum map, please do not do or try and add your trackers to your curriculum maps at this point, because you will lose all of your data, and we definitely don't want that to happen. But again, if you have not created, if you haven't gone through all of this process yet, please go ahead and create your curriculum maps first, and then create your tracker off of these maps. You will be so glad that you did. And then you walk through the same process that you always have. Again, we've got our 4th grade science, and I'm not going to go through the process because I don't want to mess up my data, but just the steps that Edith provided and what will be provided in this our presentation later, you can go ahead and create your trackers the same way. Your description might be earth science, and then the folder color, to edit, you just change and create any color that you want. You follow the import students from SIS again. And again, if you do it, if you are an elementary school teacher, and you will notice that you have the options to add students, import from SIS, then below you have your drop down like you would in Skyward. So all of your different subjects would be right here. And you could even choose to do science and the whatnot.
About semester A and B.
Oh, true too. We do have semesters, different semester rosters within Skyward, and so all of my students that were using this in semester 1, it's still on that tracker, but ideally you should create a second tracker for the second semester, because kids change classes, they update. I've had some students enter my class as recently as 2 weeks ago, and if it was from a semester 2 roster, they appeared. But I have one that was entered in a class and I didn't have to update that tracker, so it was from first semester. Their name's not on there. And for the whole grading thing where you steal the grades from here and put it in Skyward, well, they're all out of line now. So you do need to do a semester 2 tracker.
For secondary.
For secondary, yes. Now for you guys, do y'all have a semester 1 and 2?
No, we
Okay.
don't. Again, we have just all the multiple subjects. So, for instance, I have 3 third graders that come to me for math, so it'd be really important for me to pull, because they don't show up in my Skyward any other place except math. I would need to make sure to go ahead and use this option right here when I'm creating my trackers. All right.
Just change the semester 2 roster. The tracker can stay the same.
You may want to say that a little louder then.
So apparently you can just change your semester to semester 2 rosters and the tracker stays the same. So, meaning all the students that were on the first semester just shift over there. Grades are maintained as well. Okay, good. We just learned that.
So if you see, we learn something new every minute of every day, which again,
Oh, SPED sections, yes. So I have a class with 3 rosters. So in here I have 3 trackers.
well, here we can show.
Yeah, I've got 3 different trackers in there.
And if you notice, just really quickly, so these are my trackers for my different subjects. And if you notice, I have 21 students in reading, writing, but I have 22 in math, because I lose 2 to go to 5th grade, and then I get 3 from 3rd grade.
So
It balances back up to 22.
Okay. Now I could, to the co-teach, I'm going to show you this one here. The class that has the 3 rosters, I could consolidate them all in one tracker, but then I wouldn't have that niceness of being able to take the grades from here and dumping them in Skyward. So that's the only reason I haven't done that yet.
Oh, I love your profile.
You like that?
That's fabulous.
Let's see, so I'm going to go to my trackers here.
She's gifted,
And they
folks.
are, no, far. So here, clearly out of order because this was all, as we were learning, we were told just pick a random class, your smallest, so that's why 4th is the very first class. You come down here, here's period 6, and it wasn't until, was it when we first met in January that I had received those other students, or not yet?
You had just gotten them.
Okay, because it's been that recent. So down here at the very bottom are these 2 new rosters, my period 6 co-teach and my ICS class. Those 2 classes were developed and given to me very recently, and so I had to create those here. So I could put them all in one tracker if I wanted to keep all of my 6th period together. This is kind of nice here for the grading purposes, of course, but also they're going to traditionally have some special different needs that the other kids won't have, and so they're all going to be all over the place. It kind of keeps what we do with them separated. I can personalize what they need to do. Same thing with my GT group here. I do that strictly for the grade purposes because they all do the same thing. My pre-AP and GT kids, as far as testing, they all do the same.
And for those of you that are in elementary school, this would be pretty much the same concept as if you were having multiple small groups in one class. So if you had enrichment for math versus your academic on level math versus your needs a little extra help math, you could have all 3 of those trackers within the one kind of umbrella of just math itself. And all you would need to do is change your titles to, like you've done here, to reflect exactly what you're teaching. So versus your period 2 here versus period 2 GT.
And then off to the right, of course, here's this little jewel here. You can see which classes are doing really well as a group. Scroll down here.
For like 5 minutes, but I don't mind if they're in there. I just want to let y'all know that.
See whichever groups over here are missing a little bit. So the green, orange, and red kind of gives you a quick glance as a class, which classes are where you'd like them to be and which classes as a whole. Like that's a lovely little class right there, isn't it? Awesome? I wish they were all like that, but they're not, and that's okay. So, and in this class, I know here my ICS group needs some redirection and some standards that we've taught and gone over.
and I'm not really sure if we can, show our data that we have because it has student names on it, but there's a really great feature where you can actually go into the assessments that they've taken and separate them by question, who answered what questions, which is really another great way to create your new groups for personalized learning, because you know that this is how they answered, these are their misconceptions, and this is a group you definitely need to take care to work out whatever misconceptions that they have. So again, at a mere glance, and I wish I could show you, but because of student privacy rules, we can't, just a really at a glance where, for instance, it would tell you these students right here, exactly what they've missed and what you need to capture in order to get them to move to the green zone. All right.
Go back up to the top for a second. When we were there a minute ago, I wanted to go back to your curriculum maps. And just kind of an aside here, if you click on Add Curriculum Map in the top right, there's going to be a little help bar over here that you can always use to guide to. So, we're not giving a lot of information about curriculum maps, but the whole program is pretty easy to go through and self-teach. The thing is not knowing what it can do sometimes and learning from other people. Hey, I didn't even know it could do that. But if you want a curriculum map, you need a tracker. Their help menus are extremely good.
Right, and they even come with nifty little videos. Create a tracker from curriculum map. And we spent a lot of time just kind of playing around and seeing what it had to do. And it got more exciting the more that we moved on. But one of the things that Edith made me fall in love with Mastery Connect about is if you were in Spring Branch and you use Skyward as your grading system, one of the most amazing things about Mastery Connect is that if you give an assessment, you can, with a touch of a button or a couple buttons, take all of the data, the numerical data that you've processed in the assessments, and copy it as a grade into Skyward. It exports to Skyward. So it's really fantastic. No more, not only does, Mastery Connect grade it for you, but you can also...
It enters it in the grade book.
Enters it into the grade book.
Yeah.
Which I think is, I think it sold a lot of my teachers that were on the fence about, oh, this is just one more thing.
Right.
It moved them into the category of, yes, we don't have to go from a hard copy grade book to Skyward. It just naturally just moves it on over for us. So that's been really amazing.
Why don't we talk for just a second about how the student grades get into Mastery Connect, because there's several different methods. You can print your bubble sheets, and by printing this, it can just be a generic bubble sheet where the kids would then go in and they key in their ID at the top and bubble it in, and then they bubble in their answers. And you can make this 10 questions, 20 questions, whatever you want. Another method, which I like even better, cancel that, is my kids actually log in and they take the test on the computer. And so it'll show the test here on the left-hand side, and on the right there's a skinny panel, and they just have little 4 buttons, and they just touch A, B, C, D. And now we've got the computer on while they're taking it. You hear these little dings, and you know whichever kid's finished, and they're all like looking around trying to, of course then they race each other. But so that's one way to do it too. Some teachers here have done 50-question bubble sheets, and they've laminated them, and then the teachers will let the kids use an AV pen. They'll bubble it, scan it in front of the computer where it reads it, and then they just wipe it off and they keep reusing that. So there's several different ways. It just depends on, I guess, your device options as well, if there's enough having in the class.
We actually did that in the beginning. We scanned, or we created the bubble sheets, like she said, except instead of leaving it blank, we actually had, I have one for every student in my classroom, and I copied it onto cardstock and laminated it, and they use their expo markers every time that we have an assessment, and they just scan. But lately, in order to conserve our natural resources, my students are on a really big kick about saving the earth. They have asked me if there's any way that we can just not make copies. And so, again, I have to credit Edith for this. showing me how to get my kids to log in to the link, which we can show them how to do. So now my kids are taking all of their assessments online. And at first I didn't think it was possible for elementary, but we messed around with it enough to where my kids can log on just like hers. Because what we noticed is, well, again, we can't show this because of student names. There is a way for the teacher to go in to Mastery Connect and send an email to all of her students to activate their student codes. I would love to be able to show you that, but we're trying to be protect our students' privacy on all levels. And her students were able to go in and just activate themselves. It does not work for elementary students. I sent the emails multiple times, and then I tried to go in as one of my students to check their Gmail to see if they got the email, and they didn't. So,
From outside of the district.
yeah, so just know that there is a very big separation in that particular way between middle school and elementary school. As Weiss was saying, elementary students won't get emails outside the district, and because Mastery Connect is linked to the district but is still an outside company, those emails won't come through.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
So we love Mastery Connect on the elementary level, but students need to just get the assess code that the teacher will provide, and you do that. You can go ahead since it's your computer or your.
Oh, go ahead. It's fine. Go to go to assessments.
So if you want your students to log in and take the assessment online,
Let's just do a random one and see if this will pull it up. You would click the test that you want. You would add it to a tracker. Oh, we don't have any trackers for this assessment, so create. Maybe we could do one right here. Because if I do the assess code, it's going to pull up my kids.
yes.
So,
Again, I would highly encourage each one of you to just go in and play with this with your own student data. My apologies for not being able to share as much as we'd like, but since this information is tied to our students, it's kind of hard to show.
it is. Now, as far as tests, you can either input, maybe talk about that piece of it then too, because finding your tracker, the test, the assess code, that becomes pretty easy. And our slideshow that's here will have information on how to do that. And so they're going to have access to this after?
Yes.
Okay, so if you go through the slideshow that we've prepared, there are little videos in here. They have names hidden, but it does talk about this slide, for instance, taking the grades into Skyward. Here, creating assessments, and creating your tracker. So all of these how-tos would be in there. But you can show this one if we want to create a new assessment. So you have to show them what you showed me as far as the assessment bank.
Okay.
That's been pretty cool. I don't think I've made my own test since then.
So we all know that life is hard and we all have really busy lives. And so, again, it's great if we can make things super easy on ourselves. Again, so when you're creating an assessment, it will automatically default to Common Core. So what you need to do is go in and choose Texas and the TEKS that are the latest TEKS for that subject. So for us, math was changed in 2015. And then you would pull up, and again, I'm treating this as though this was my Mastery Connect. But I pulled up 4th grade, and you can even do multi-standard. So for us, fractions starts in TEK 4.3, but it has multiple subsections, so A through G or H. So when I do multi-standard, that means that I am going to have an assessment that is made up of multi parts of my fraction TEK. So if I wanted to put in fractions, because it's fresh in my mind, I'm going to choose the assessment source Certica Navigant Item Bank.
The best thing ever.
It is the best thing ever because it allows you to pull up, for instance, 4.3a has 10 questions to choose from. I can choose my depth of knowledge. If I want it to be higher up Bloom scale, I can do that and see if there are any questions that work for that. So then I also have the ability to look at the question before I add it to my test. So I'm looking at this, he divides it into 6 sections, and I can go down, I can look at my answers to see if they work for my students. Let's say that they don't, so I'm just going to go to the next item. Oh, I like that much better, so I'm going to add the item to my test. And it's really that simple. And then I decide that I've had enough of 4.3 because I've chosen multi-standard. I can go down and I can say, okay, now I need to make sure that I test, can they decompose fractions? So that's 4.3c, and we do the same thing again. That's one of our biggest teaks, so I'm going to make sure that I add a couple items from here.
And this is really good because then it's exactly how the kids see it. You can print out a printable copy if you choose to do that, which I'm not pleased with how the printed copy looks too much. But when they're online here, that one question takes up the whole screen. And
Absolutely.
It's all they're focused on, it's all they see, and those bubbles to the right-hand side, and they just touch the one.
Right. And again, I've now got 7 questions using, or in my assessment. If I wanted to go ahead and make 10, I could do that. And then if you notice, it says I've got 1 possible from 4.3a. So mastery, obviously, what I would try and do is have at least 5 questions where I would do mastery would be 3 and near mastery would be 2. Or I would have 6 questions and do near mastery is 4, or mastery is 4 and near mastery would be 3. And the same thing right here, I have 8 possible for 4.3c, so I would do 6 is mastery and 5 is near mastery. And then you would just click create assessment. And if you forget to put in your mastery, it reminds you, which is fantastic. And of course, I'm just putting these in so that I can show the created assessment. And like Edith said, you have the option of printing it out and giving it to the students and then having them scan, bubble and scan, or you have the option of giving them the link to it.
And here you do the same thing. You just give them an assess code, which is found at the top of the tracker if your column is 4 point, what are we looking at? 4 point?
Multi-standard, so
Multi-standard.
4th grade math.
Okay, so you go to the top of 4th grade math, click on any one of the teaks that are in there, and it shows the assess code for all of the ones that are within that test. And then the kids see it projected on the board, they type in their 6 digits, and they're off and they go.
Right, and it also, because it's in the Certica Navigant Bank, it automatically has all of the answer choices and what the correct answer is. Everything is already set up for you. So it's a pretty amazing little tool there. I will tell you that if you teach 4th grade and you want questions on Texas history, you will not find them in the Certica Navigant Bank. They do not exist. Your options are also limited in science, but for math and reading, which is our main push this year, then you will be able to see it. If you do not like the test that you created, or like obviously 4th grade fractions does not belong in an 8th grade chemistry teacher's.
But can I do it? That would be interesting.
That would be fun. You can just go ahead and go back to the assessment page that you created, and in the bottom right hand corner you have more options, and you can click delete and it will go away. Confirm delete.
So anything from this test bank, you can, if you have a form that you've used in the past or a test, a Word doc, you can just upload that as well. So when you do your create assessments, upload, there are your test questions. You have to then key in the answers, which this one already does it for you, but that's still not that hard.
Right. The other really positive thing about using the Certica Navigant Bank is that, again, you choose your TEK or you choose multiple TEKs, and it ties to your tracker. So when you look at your tracker, you've got your students' names on the left-hand side and then all the TEKs on the top, along the top. And so you can see, you can go straight to the TEK that you're assessing, and that's where you would find all this information. With uploading your own test, you have to know exactly what TEKs are in that test. So if you're only doing one TEK for say reading, it's a lot easier because you're only doing, let's say, 4.19 D, E, or F. But if you're doing in math where it's one TEK with multiple pieces, it gets a little bit harder to make sure that you have each question tied to the right, each assessment tied to the right TEK, because you do it by question. Just making sure we get through.
Go through some other things. Create detractors, create assessments, importing scores. What else can we tell them?
I really wish we could show how to.
I know, that would be awesome.
Yep. If you are a Spring Branch teacher and you would like to know that, please feel free to email us, because we'd be more than happy to kind of walk you through it.
We'll tweet this. Check Twitter, the EdTech Twitter.
We will definitely be tweeting out our presentation, or the link to our presentation. So if you want to check EdTech's Twitter, you'll find it there.
SBISD EdTech.
So it's at SBISD EdTech.
Are there any of these that we can get to show that would be helpful?
We've talked about creating trackers, creating assessments, the curriculum maps. If you have a test that you love and you've used it for years and it's just the most perfect test that it can possibly be, then obviously you can use it instead of the Certica Navigant test bank. And you know that Edith is a real pro at creating her own tests until I showed her the Navigant test bank, and then it, goodbye tests.
Never again. That's not true, I will.
If you want to kind of show them, walk through the process of uploading your own.
So clicking on assessment, it's a slow program. Have you noticed that if you click something, it really does have a little bit of a lag where the kids will click it and they're like, it's not doing anything, and they just don't have a whole lot of patience.
Okay, successful. Okay, my arm back down for the second.
Where are we going now?
Are we back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Yay, we're back.
Okay, so we were saying, go with the making your test. Oh, this one right here, I think that's where you were when we got disconnected, right?
Yeah, I was just going off and saying that, again, back to the personalized learning section of this, not even to use the data that you get from this to create new groups, but if you notice the fact that Edith has a ton of different options, she can create assessments per group. So again, that is using that personalized learning piece, or using this to assess the personalized learning piece. And remember, it's not just an assessment in terms of formal means. I mean, if you want to create exit tickets, if you want to create warm-ups, if you want to create pre-assessments and post-assessments, if you think that your student just kind of maybe messed up on the test and may not need to be in the group that the test shows that he was supposed to be in, then you may want to give him a pre-assessment just to make sure. So all of that's possible with Mastery Connect, which I think is really important to point out. So
it sounds somewhat negative, but I do have occasional students in ISS. And so what I have been using for them there is pulling up a test bank, a review, because there are written questions as well. They aren't all just multiple choice, where the kids are given a prompt and they have to write something about it. So I'll create something for those students and just send the access code to that student as well. And they're in ISS with a teacher because they're being given a day to kind of think about things, and now they can think about science while they're there. So let's go back to this. We were going to do multi-standard. test, any test title. And then down here, I usually just do, I usually leave it to the district. What do you do on yours? Or do you just your campus?
We do it within our campus, but
Okay.
we have been recently told to share it within the district.
Okay.
We were just doing it on campus because that's what we just kind of figured would work.
And did I miss the upload option? Here we go, assessment source. So I would upload a file here, and it would take me to file from your computer or Google Drive or Dropbox. So any of those 3 options, just find the test, click it, and it pulls it up in there. And then once it pulls it up in here, not my computer, so I couldn't find a test, a model for you, down here on the bottom, there would be all of the questions listed, 1, 2, 3, however many you are, and then on the right-hand column, if you've done multi-standard, each drop-down tells you to pick the one you want, 8.1, 8.2, and then you can, at the end, you can do by standards the mastery level for each one. So it kind of generates this window down here at the bottom once you've uploaded your own folder. File.
And it's, I think, really important. I mean, we've just shown you the multiple choice portion, but I think it's really important to show you that you've got true, false, you've got rubric criteria, open answers, mixed, so you can really play with this and kind of, go all kinds of teacher crazy. The rubric criteria is really great because I can give an open-ended question, an expository question, and my students, and I can tell them exactly what I'm expecting. I'm grading for cups, capitalization, usage, punctuation, spelling. I'm grading for radar. I'm grading for all the elements of writing, and they know that, okay, if this is what she's looking for, I need to make sure as I'm answering that I've included that. So I think it's really pretty awesome to be able to see that. And the other great thing is that you can pull this up anywhere. So if you're sitting in the dentist office waiting for your turn to be called and you've got internet, it's right there for you, and you can just get it at a glance.
And my students prefer, sometimes, speaking of being anywhere and using anything, when we don't have devices for every student, they're fine using it on their phones. They don't mind that. They see the same image, it's just a little smaller. They have no difficulty with that. So I've had kids take it on their phones and look at it that way.
It's pretty awesome. It's definitely pretty awesome. We want to make sure that we've covered everything for you.
I don't know how else we would know that, would we? What about this? Have you ever played with that?
I have not.
Let's play with it right now and see what that is.
So Certica is the test bank that we were told from if you're from Spring Branch, to use. But this is another
Inspect Item Bank.
The Inspect Item Bank.
I mean, it's there. It must be okay. So let's pull up something I'm doing right now. What am I doing right now? There we go. And we'll see what those questions are. Look at that. Same kind of thing. So the teacher read the questions yourself and select the best answer. So that's my prompt. A race car driving on a circular track. So there's similar questions to what the other test bank has. And I wonder what inspect means.
I don't know. I'm guessing it's just another test bank company.
I like it. I think that works too. Add the item. And so do you have to do you have to key it in here as you go through? Or does the answer key already go with it when you select the question?
The answer key already goes with it.
Good question, in case somebody asks. I didn't know the answer, by the way. I always click.
Yeah, if you move it down, it tells you what the correct answer is.
And that's awesome too. So if you are going through here and you're in a hurry, you don't know, maybe if a kid asks you a question, not that you would ever know that, but some of the questions are wordy and you're in a quick hurry. So yes, it does give the answer there. And so there is inspect. That's kind of cool. Right-hand panel shows where you've collected questions, and here on the left are still your resource. And you can just go through and click them, but probably not a good idea without reading what they are first. I mean, it can be as easy as you need it to be if you're in a pinch for time, and you can go through here and look at each one of these and itemize what you would really like to use.
I will say that one of the downsides to using this so far, and I'm hoping that they might think about this in the future, the test does not read to the student. So even though you can give the student access or the student access code to the students and they can log in, you don't have that read to me piece yet. So if you have students who need accommodations, and one of the accommodations is small group testing or test questions read to you, that's not one of the things that this can do at the moment. But I'm hoping that they think about that, and in the future we'll see that as an option.
That would be good. So in the meantime, that student just takes their test. They still are with their co-teacher or us, and they can use this bubble sheet in that case.
Right,
And then
exactly.
bubble in their answers.
One of the things that Edith said earlier, and I'd really like for you to show them, is that,
What's that?
the option for using this as an exit ticket. So if you are in a place where you have lots of different, if you have access to lots of different computers or any kind of devices, it's a really neat feature to be able to use this as an exit ticket, or just a quick 5-question.
On the little generated piece of paper, or where they do it online?
Where they do it online.
Okay, so we have entertainment in the background.
It's really tough to be a
funny.
teacher's kid sometimes, and sometimes it's really easy. Today it's actually easy, as our children are chattering away in the back because they're being entertained.
By the cool guy next door. So I would show here the test. And we could get him to come do that behind us, and that might be entertaining. He could do the inertia hat behind us. Call him over here. So as an exit ticket, the kids would scroll through here and tell me if this is not where your train of thought was going. And they would answer the question, key it in, answer the next question, key it in. So they're keying it in as they go through. You know, they get it wrong, of course, sometimes they go to the next one, and then that one they get right and keep going. And then at the end, they just hit submit at the bottom, which you're not seeing a submit button here because I'm not logged in as a student. And it immediately gives them their grade, immediately gives them their feedback, hits the ding on the board. For me, I hear it in the classroom. So, is that what you were thinking for exit tickets?
It is, because basically it is a quick way to say, okay, look, we've covered this material today, and I want to see if you understood what I taught. And so at the very end of the day, the teacher gets the information, and she can tell in an instant, oh, my lesson was successful, my lesson wasn't successful. So you can use as many questions as you want in an assessment, but if you want a quick 5-question, did you get it type situation, you can use that for this too. And I just don't want, the takeaway to be that you only use this with formative assessments at the end of a unit or at the end of a topic that you've wanted to cover.
And it can even be something if they're doing stations for a day where they're at a lab station here, they carry their iPad, they carry their whatever they have their device for the day, do the lab, perform there, log into this, answer the short answer question, move to the next station. Well, there's a couple of multiple choices that go with that station, and so they travel with it as well. So that is a piece that would be incorporated, not exit necessarily, but not formative either. So they're just strictly using it to model what they're learning along the way. What if is there a way to close the screen for like a split second and I get a tracker up there where I can cover the names? Let's do that for a second. Tell me when to go.
You want me to move?
Let's see, there might not be a way to do that actually without going offline.
Let's not go offline. Let's not do that. Yeah, we don't want to go offline. I wonder how fast I could maneuver and squeeze the names across. Probably not that fast. It would be really nice to be able to see a tracker and be able to show some of the features that we're talking about. And I have a way to do that. Okay, that's all right.
So kind of what she was saying with lab rotations, you can do the same thing with small group rotations in elementary school. Same concept. If you have something, if you want to hold students accountable for each station, you can do that within, instead of your assessment, it would you would still click it as assessment like you would normally do, but it might be, your title would be Station 1, Station 2, Station 3, and you would tie it to whatever subject that you were working with. So it's just another really great way, I think, to establish another connection between student and teacher in real time.
And you have the option to go in then, let's say you have a combination of multiple choice and short answers. So it grades the multiple choice pieces for you. You go in, you separately grade those short answers, consolidates the grades, you're still good to go. I mean, it's pretty seamless. It's very easy to do. And you don't have to carry papers home. You don't have to print papers. You just carry your laptop home. And there it is.
And again, it feeds right into Skyward very, very easily. Just like you would normally say add, you would say add an assignment, basically by going into your assessments, and with one click of a button that says export scores, then you go back into Skyward and you click F8.
F8, yeah.
And it just populates your fields. You hit save, there's an entire column done.
Unless you've had a kid added to your roster and they aren't in the tracker. Then it populates scores, it skips that kid, and every kid gets the next grade down. So yeah, watch out for that.
But
That's the reason for doing the updated trackers too, reading the new ones.
See, I was just really fascinated by that when I learned about it. So I've been, screaming from the heavens, oh my gosh, look what this can do.
It's so amazing.
It really is. It's a game changer.
And even if you just have one kid, I'll still go in and repopulate it because it's fun to watch. But you can go in and hand enter a grade, of course. You don't have to do the whole list. But it's fun to watch. I wish we had questions like we knew some things that people would want to know. That would make it a lot easier. But that's something you were saying too. They can always contact us. Quick questions. You want to come in after school one day where you have your laptop, you have ours on the screen. I mean, I'm happy to meet with anybody who wants to meet and go over some of the details, because that makes it easier when you have your hands on your laptop, you have your kids in hand, you know what you're going to be assessing. It just makes it more personal.
Okay, so just as a kind of a quick reminder, this is who we are. This is how to get in touch with us. Again, most of what we've learned by talking to each other, and we've learned just by playing around.
In a short period of time. Yeah.
Very short period of time. And again, it's by no means a perfect application to use, but at the same time, it's perfect for the many things that it can do. So I think it's really important to look at every application that we're given in kind of two ways. Like, one, I need to use this, so I need to make it work for me. And two, I know it's going to have limitations, but I need to work around those limitations and just do the very best that I can. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, I think both of us have answered a lot of our own questions about where can we use this in our classroom so that we can use this data constantly. And my kids get to the point now where they're just like, we're mastery connecting today, right? Yes, we are. And so they know to get their computers and wait to log on and type in their code and get ready to go. So it's been fun.
It has been fun. It's a little different way for them to test and assess what they're doing, and it really is a huge time saver. I mean, I can't imagine. No more grading, which you still want to grade their papers, you want to look at what they're doing, but on some things you don't need to do that. You're going to have to assess them. You're going to need to know what they're accomplishing. You have the opportunity to go here and go to each class and do progress reports. You can do student reports, you can do class reports, you can compare if you and another teacher are giving the same assessment, and I go to progress reports, it shows Miss Lewis's kids and Mr. Law's kids, and there we are side by side. And so we can see that Miss Lewis needs to work a little harder because Mr. Law's kids are doing really well, so they're doing great.
And you get a pat on the back moment when you see that your kids are doing really well too. So
yes.
Don't sell yourself short.
I know.
But it's a really great way you can also do it by student. So if you click progress report and then you do it by student, when a parent comes in and says, little Joey's grades are going down the toilet, can you tell me what's going on? Well, I can show you at the push of a button all the things that he's done for me, and this is what it looks like. So it's a really user-friendly way to connect with parents too when they have those types of questions. Mm-hmm. And you can catch students, I think, faster. We're only human, and we can only grade so fast. And so although we would love to be able to say at the end of the day that we run straight home and we grade all of our papers, if your husbands, wives, mothers, daughters, and you have your own lives after you leave school, gasp, I know that's kind of a hard concept. This kind of gives you a way to say, okay, look, the paper was graded for me, and I caught Joey really missing out on everything that I taught that day. So instead of waiting a couple of days when you can get to the paper itself, this again grades it for you, and you can say, okay, I need to meet with Joey the very next morning and I need to figure out what's going on.
Sure.
Because this is not usually how he works. So let it work for you and have fun with it and play around with it. And
It is a lot of fun.
remember,
Yes.
delete is your friend and archive is your friend. So if you don't like something you created, do that bottom right-hand corner, more options, and poof, it's gone.
But just
So-
don't do curriculum maps, because that's not your friend. Not yet anyway, right?
If you do curriculum maps first. Don't do trackers first.
Don't track this.
Build your trackers from your curriculum maps. And just have fun and contact us if you need any help, if you need any guidance of where you could use it in your room, and we'd be happy to help you.
We travel. I'll go somewhere. They don't have to come here.
Oh, I can travel too.
Yeah.
As long as you don't mind my 7-year-old. She travels too.
We'll bring Mr. Laws and he can entertain all of them in the background.
With inertia caps. All right, guys, it's been fun.
Thank y'all for listening, for being here. Are we all?
Keep smiling.
It's like the news reporters, they keep talking, but they don't